John, the claims of parapsychology and ESP, telepathy, reading other minds, clairvoyance, knowing things at a distance beyond your senses, precognition, knowing the future, these things are very controversial in terms of whether they're true or not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deal with that. What I'm going to deal with is if they are true, and it's a big if, but if they are true, what are the implications for understanding the world in which we live?
Well, of all these things you mentioned, the one I feel most confident about, in fact, the only one I feel confident about, is ESP, telepathy, as it used to be called, extrasensory perception, in which thoughts are conveyed from one mind to another, not by any physical intermediary, but somehow directly. Now, if that occurs, well, it's very bad news for materialism, because it ought not to be possible. And as a matter of fact, many, many years ago, in the time of Stalin, Russian scientists tried to prove that it was physical. What they did was to put, if you have two people involved, don't you? One who is trying to send a message, one who is receiving it. The one who receives it into a lead box through which ordinary physical radiation could not penetrate. And they wanted to show that this would shut off telepathy, but they found that it didn't. To their consternation, it seemed to be a purely mental effect at a distance, something very, very strange indeed. And it is, very, as I say, very bad news for materialism.
I think the data is weak at best in all areas of ESP, but I would agree with you that the data does not show, weak as it is, a diminution with distance.
Yeah.
So, which is characteristic of everything in the physical world. So I think it's a good bet that if it is real, and it's an if, that it is something certainly beyond our normal characterization of what the physical is.
Yeah.
Now, how does that integrate with your understanding of consciousness, for example, since mind to mind is consciousness to consciousness?
Sure. Well, it fits in quite well, doesn't it?
How so? How so?
Because, you see, if there was nothing but brain, physical brain, I mean, physical brain might emit electric messages, perhaps, but not over long distances. And as you pointed out, they would diminish over distance. This doesn't fit ESP. But what makes me believe that ESP occurs is not so much the statistical arguments that you get from, there was an American scientist, wasn't there, at the University of Virginia, who did lots of experiments.
J.P. Ryan
J.P. Ryan,
at
yes.
Duke.
Yes, Duke, sorry, yes. Not so much that as purely spontaneous examples in which you think of somebody and it's, quite sort of out of the blue, as it were, and you find that they were thinking of you at that particular moment. Or an experiment that I've seen done, person number one draws a picture on a piece of paper, something very simple picture. Person number two draws something very similar.
Yeah, these are hard to explain in isolated instances, although a lot of statistical analysis of these things, I would say, are still extraordinarily controversial. A lot of people say that it's still random experiments, or there's cheating, or there's misinterpretations. There's a lot of arguments.
Sure. Yeah.
And it's hard to really get to the absolute bottom of it.
It is, yes.
But if it is real, some say it has to be explained by the physical world.
But how can it be?
And that's the big question.
Indeed.
And if it can't be, does that open up a huge new window to a new reality?
It does, yes. It means that there is reality beyond the physical. So it is quite important.